welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a little bit different of a video. We're kind of talking about the next steps of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, what would Yu-Gi-Oh! Be at the end of this year? Where is the direction of Yu-Gi-Oh! Going? Is it good? Is it bad? But like, this video is all about what's next for Yu-Gi-Oh!
One destiny, the paradox begins. Neon lights hitting the asphalt blur. The gears are turning, the engines purr. You think you've seen the end of the line, but we're rewriting space and time. Locked in a circuit, breaking the code. Two hearts beating on a digital road. Rev it up, let the sparks fly high beneath the weight of a fractured sky. Double the pressure, double the winds. Welcome to the paradox twins. Let the games begin. Our world, your move. The paradox twins.
First off, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in a very good place. Recently, they have changed up a lot of things, and I think the things that they are changing up are really healthy for the game. For instance, they did change recently, like the prize pool. So like, if you go and compete in tournaments, a lot of the players were complaining like it's not really worth, or you're not getting as much worth as you would as if you would play like Pokemon, the TCG, or like One Piece, or these other kind of card games. But recently, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of re-evaluated their cards. So like, if you go to a tournament, if you get to like the top 16 or the top 8, you could win like a selective rare card that's like kind of like a collector's card. Like, you collect it because they only make so many of these in the world, but it's basically, it'll have like a special stamp. So this stamp will say like World Tournament like 2026, and only like this one card or these few cards are going to have that kind of like logo on it, which dramatically increases the price of the card, which is great. That's like very good. So they're re-amping like the amount of like money you can make if you're playing tournaments, and like what you can win as like a cool prize, like special prizes. So that's great. If we look specifically at like the trading card game, I think the trading card game, like physical format of it, is in a very good spot as well. If you don't know, they are releasing over rarity of cards. So this is something they had in like the Rush Duel. Even though we don't have Rush Duels in North America, the Rush Duel overframe format is basically where they take kind of like the picture of the monster and it extends past the frame of the card, which is kind of cool. It's like a really nice looking card, and on top of that, they're bringing that kind of overframe to Yu-Gi-Oh! But like in the TCG, what players been asking for. But they're also making new unique monsters that kind of follow the theme of kind of like the hero and the rival characters from the anime of the TV show, which is great. So you have like a Yugi card that has Dark Magician, then you have a Seto Kaiba card that has Blue Eyes, but these are just not copy and paste. These are new cards also. They have new effects that they didn't have before, that make their decks really good. So these cards are going to bring players back. They're going to be a collector's item, and it's something that I think it's a win-win for everybody. It's something that like everyone's been kind of asking for. Like, they wanted that new kind of artwork on top of kind of like making like new cards for specific types of decks. So I think that's all great. And in the last couple of sets, we had Burst Protocol. That was a good set. That was like a main set that people, you know, usually main sets usually sell a little bit more, but this was bringing back like a lot of like strategies and a lot of cards that is making the meta kind of like fresh. It's like a new kind of like era, I would say, that we're kind of like almost entering in, because it was like almost all like one card combos. There was like a lot of hand traps, and it's just like, it felt kind of toxic. It wasn't as fun. But like, there's new cards that like, even though you have a hand trap, you have other things that you can play that doesn't just stop the play. And they have like old kind of themes. Okay, like they brought back one of my favorite decks, the Spellcaster, the Magnus cards. They brought one of those decks, some of those cards back that were printed like over a year ago in the OCG. It was in Master Duel. I've been waiting for a very long time to get my hands on that, so I was like super stoked. But then they also have like the set of the Maze set. And the Maze set, that was like a smaller set, and usually that smaller set, it's kind of like unique, it's a little cool, but it's like it doesn't really sell that well. But this Maze set this year, it went above and beyond, because you had hero support, and everybody loves heroes, but it's even like the mask heroes, which I would say the mask heroes are probably one of the most, if not favorite type of hero brand out there, because they're so easy to summon and they're really fun to use, and it's based off like kind of like the manga, which is cool. So you have new hero support in the mask heroes, and then you also have new support for Dark Magician, and Dark Magician always sells, and everybody was asking for like more support for the Dark Magician to make Dark Magician more meta. So that's great, because two sets back to back that are going to like sell really well, that's really healthy for the game. And then on top of that, in March we are going to have kind of like, they're changing the way that they release structure decks. I mean, they have the Chronicles now, so like they have like that small like short little anime. It's not really, I don't think, that popular, but it's cool to kind of like see kind of like these different archetypes and kind of like their environment, the world that they live in, what they're facing, what they're going through. So it's kind of like a cool little thing to kind of like watch on the side. But they're releasing kind of like theme decks based on like those kind of like storylines, and those decks come in all foil, like they're all holographic, every single card, and that is a huge win. So that's awesome. But then on top of that, in March you're having kind of like 3 decks release at the same time as like a specialty like deck pack. And I think that's like cool, because it's like players that haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh and they want to get into the game, just buy this deck pack. You can pick out of 1 in 3 decks, and these decks kind of help players, kind of like show players how the game works, kind of like not like babying people either. I don't think people should be babied. Okay, yes, Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a complicated game, but if you just kind of learn the basics, okay, it starts to make sense. And I think what makes Yu-Gi-Oh the funnest out of all the card games, it takes skill. It does take skill to be good at the game, and it's that skill learning curve. Like, yeah, I want to quit, it's too much, it's overwhelming, but if you don't give up and you still kind of like figure it out slowly, okay, start to look at your mistakes. It's kind of like a very advanced form of chess, and if you get good at it, it's very rewarding. And like, I think these decks, they're really good decks. It takes, you know, not a lot of talent to kind of learn how to play the deck, but if you want to master the deck, that's a whole nother story. So it's like, yeah, I can learn how to like use this deck. It might be something that I don't get right away, but if I kind of like start to put the pieces together, and these cards are really like nice to get reprinted, you know? It's like, oh, it's hard to buy every individual one of those cards to build your own deck, like a Sky Striker deck, but then I can just buy the Sky Striker deck and 2 other decks that all come in together. So it's like I get the price of 3 decks that are all like close to like, you know, not like meta, but like up top A tier maybe, perhaps. That's great. That is so great. So like Yu-Gi-Oh, I think what's next for Yu-Gi-Oh, it's kind of like doing the same thing what you are doing already, because you're making big changes. You're actually listening to the feedback of the players and what the players want. You're seeing like events that have, like, you have the Genesis format. Like, people were asking for a new type of format, and then the Genesis format just had its first tournament, and it was so nice to hear people saying, hey, it was really refreshing. It was like, if I didn't want to play like the modern meta, I can kind of play this kind of like off kind of tier meta format that is a little bit simpler, but it still has that complexity and that skill level. And like, it went really well. It had just as many players sign up for that event that they had for the main event. So it's like, you're starting to find your groove. So all these things are really good, and I think this is exactly what we need for the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Now, if we look at Master Duel, you know, the digital format of everything, they had like their 4th anniversary, which is cool. You brought like a lot of new kind of like cards that we were asking for that are like printed physically right now. You have like your own unique release of a Master Duel card that will release later, throughout the year for the TCG, but that's kind of cool to get people a little bit hyped for this cool card. But like, I think Master Duel is kind of like falling behind a little bit, because like outside of like rank mode still, and adding new cards and maybe some animations and like some new kind of like, what do you call those, like monsters that you have on your field, mates, I guess. There hasn't been like a whole lot of change. I'm not saying it's not like necessarily bad. Like, it's cool to always see like new updates and like things for the game, but like, I think the game needs to have like different ways of playing the game. Like the story mode for single player, that's cool to learn more about like the storyline of the different cards. And then there's rank, and then you have some events. Some of the events are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they're kind of fun. Sometimes they're like boring, I guess. What Yu-Gi-Oh needs next for Master Duel, I think a draft duel would be super cool. I think that would bring in a lot of players. Like, it's kind of like fun ranked, right? You're not gonna, I mean, maybe they can make it competitive in the future. Who knows if it gets popular enough, but it's just like something like it's a new casual mode that you can just go online, you draft and pick cards and you duel someone. That would be cool. Or what I really want, and I don't know why they haven't done this, but it's like tag duel. I think tag duel would be so cool. Like, you have one random player you team up with, you share a field, and you just got to see if you can beat against two other people that share a field too. So yeah, I think Master Duel, it reached its peak of like performance of like what it can do without other new modes, and I think in order for it to grow and continue to grow, you have to add some kind of new mode to get people back into the game, because you lost a lot of players since the launch of the game. If we look at Duel Links, I'm a big Duel Links guy. I love Duel Links. I think it's like a very easy format, but a very fast-paced format if you just want to play for fun, get quick games in if you don't have a lot of time, if you're doing a lot of other things with your life. Duel Links is the way to go. But the problem with Duel Links, I think the events, they're really repetitive. I like how the events are a lot more variety. Like, I can do a raid boss, I can do like turbo duels where I'm riding like a motorcycle. I can pick the motorcycle I want. They have different effects for speed spells. I can do an action duel like in Arc 5, where I can grab different cards, pump up the crowd, and help myself win a duel. I like that. You have Rush Duel, and at first I didn't like Rush Duel. I think Rush Duel, I was like, from when it was first introduced, I thought it was like going to be part of the main series of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I was like so pumped, because I was like, Yu-Gi-Oh! What Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs is to constantly evolve. Like, its thing that makes it stand out from any other card game is the difficulty. And I know that turns a lot of people off, but it's also the thing that I think makes Yu-Gi-Oh! The strongest card game out there, because it takes skill, it takes talent, and like keep evolving Yu-Gi-Oh! So when Rush came out, I was like, holy crap, a new summoning mechanic. We needed that. We need a new summoning mechanic, because I've been waiting for years. And then I learned about maximums. I'm like, oh, there it is. And then I found out the game was only in another format that didn't actually correspond or had any connections to the original format. And I was just like, oh, this is stupid. And then when the game first released, like Duel Links, it was terrible. Like, there's literally just normal summon and summon monsters, and no effects, really, no traps, like barely any spells. It was so bad. But as Rush Duel evolved, and as it released like new mechanics, they added again the maximum summoning. I think that's a really cool summoning mechanic. I think what Yu-Gi-Oh! Really needs next is a new summoning mechanic, and I would love for them to bring the maximum summoning like mechanism, just how like it works, into like the TCG, into Master Duel, into like Duel Links, into Speed Duel, like OCG, like all formats. Like, give us a new summoning mechanic. Like, I don't care like if it's people like complain about it. Sure, everybody's gonna complain about something. Like, the game is way too complex already, but like, that's the thing. Like, it's meant to be something that it's going to challenge people. It's going to not just baby and make things easy. It's like, it's competitive skill level is what makes Yu-Gi-Oh successful at the end of the day, even if it sucks for new players. Okay, but there's ways to get people who never played it, and how even complex Yu-Gi-Oh is, easy ways to get them to still learn how to play the game and still fall into the game, kind of like how we did, right? We grew up with it and it was very simple back then, but even though it's way more complex now, it doesn't mean you can't find ways to introduce people into it. And then once they learn the more complex layers, and it's like they stick with it, and they maybe don't like it or they do like it, but they see how unique it is. And I think you have to give it props where props are due, because that uniqueness is what makes it successful. So yeah, bring in Rush duels mechanics like maximum summoning. I think like if we have a Master Duel like 5 release, I think we're a Master Duel 4 or maybe Master Duel 6. I don't remember what Master Duel we're on, but if we have a new Master Duel that states, hey, we have a new summoning mechanic, it's called maximum, just from the Rush kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh show, you can also maximum summon now in the actual show. That's cool. Maybe like in Rush they have ritual monsters in the extra deck. Maybe you can make it where you can decide to add ritual monsters either in your extra deck or your main deck. It's your choice. They can go in either way. You can summon them out and it with the rituals card from either one. I think that would be like a cool change that would make Master Duel kind of exciting, you know, like, oh, rituals maybe could be or should be summoned from an extra deck, you know, instead of taking up spots. But you could also decide, you know, it gives you more options gives complexity and what really shape up the game. So like a new summoning mechanic. But yeah, Rush Duel, it grew on me when they added fusion, contact fusion, they added equip spells. It actually made the game like a nice little fresh take on what the original game was. So it's like simpler if you want to play like a simple format of it, but it also can be complex in its own kind of ways. So it's cool. But yeah, I just feel like it should go like vice versa. Like both games should have kind of like similar mechanics that they can both use. So you use fusion, you use rituals, you use contact. Why can't the main one use maximum? I think that's the next move for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's maximum summoning for the TCG, OCG, Master, and Speed Duel. Yeah. But yeah, I think the digital formats of Duel Links is in a good spot. They just had Dragoon, Red Eyes Dragoon being released. They had the 9th anniversary, so it's been going on for 9 years. I think they're still missing quite a bit of cards. Like I'm waiting on some like spellcaster cards that haven't been released yet. That have like the pendulum effects, that have the spell counters. I don't know, like there's cards that release way after that are in Duel Links, but not some cards that you'd be waiting on for like years still that release way earlier. But I guess, you know, they're trying to balance kind of like the format of what cards overpower. Like they have kind of like a themes release, kind of like based on the character. So like when Shark released, you had all these like water monsters and shark cards, I guess. So I guess, you know, the story though, that's what Yu-Gi-Oh needs next. They need to continue the game of Duel Links and its story, because you kind of tease like how like all the different characters like from the Lynx world met and saw all the characters from every other Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, even like the Rush Yu-Gi-Oh characters. So it's like, if you can come up with like a movie, okay, or if you make the VR, I would love to see the VR kind of like in Duel Links incorporate them into like one game. You can play Duel Links on your phone, but you can also buy the expansion VR version if you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh in like virtual reality. I think that's cool, and you can link your accounts to it. But have a movie that kind of explains how Kaiba created synchro summoning, okay, how synchro summoning created XYZ summoning, and then how there's the 4 dimensions with pendulum summoning, and how ritual monsters evolved into like a link monster. How does Rush and Yuga created from Master Duel created his own thing, but then brought back the thing back into like Master Duel to maximum summon, you know, like tie everything together. You have so many loose ends. Come out with like a new movie that kind of explains and kind of explains and ties everything back together, like all the different series, even like how you have like the monster kind of spirit realm of the monster of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Okay, you can kind of like on Duel Links in China, they have like another zone that we don't even have in America. Bring that over to America, but it's like a monster zone and it's kind of like a Master Duel, how you have like the storylines of the monsters and stuff, you know. So like, how can we connect like the monster world with like the animate world of the duelist itself? Like, those are two things that are one of the same, you know. It's like the monsters live in a world that gets summoned from the power of the cards and the characters in the show, and then they can travel in like between the two worlds or something. I don't know, you know, like there's a lot of potential. I think what Yu-Gi-Oh is doing next is smart, but I think they have to be thinking like the next 5 years, because things are going to be changing, you know, with technology, with AI, you know. So like, what you're doing now is doing what the players want, which is good to listen to, but I think you need to start setting and putting in like the next moves or how to keep the IP. Because if you're just doing like link summoning and just releasing new cards, no new mechanics, no new nothing, I think it's going to get kind of dull, because like we've been playing the same game for years now and it hasn't really evolved. So I think like a maximum summoning mechanic, I think that would be cool to see in like a Master Duel format. So this is just, you know, my thoughts, the Paradox Twins. Hopefully you agree. Hopefully you can follow the channel, give us your thoughts, comment below what you guys think, but we will catch you in the next one. Peace.